Unfortunately, I am a very big Kingdom Hearts fan. I say unfortunately not because I don't like the series, but because it's kind of a lot to deal with. I was pretty young when the first Kingdom Hearts game came out, and to be honest, the thing that drew me to it the most were all the Disney elements. If you've seen my channel before, you may have surmised that I like Disney, and have for quite some time, and honestly, it's a big reason why I'm still invested in the series. Obviously, I am invested in the main overall plot line, but I also get just as much of a thrill over seeing what Disney worlds are going to be included in each game. I find it really fun to see how these films are translated to the Kingdom Hearts series, because with some exceptions, these are 2D animated films being transformed into explorable 3D spaces. And obviously, just in general, watching a film is very different than playing a video game. As of right now, there are 29 asterisks Disney-based worlds in the Kingdom Hearts series. The asterisks will be explained a little later. And today, I thought it would be fun to do a ranking of every Disney-based world in the Kingdom Hearts series. Of course, with this being a ranking of the Disney worlds, original worlds like Twilight Town or Radiant Garden aren't included because even though they may feature Disney characters, they're not actually based off of a Disney movie. The factors that are going to be taken into account for this ranking are stuff like, how well it's translated to the medium of the video game, how easy it is to navigate, and how fun it is to play through the world, and so on. Because let it be known that not all Disney worlds are created equal in a Kingdom Hearts game. I'm also not going to really take into account the plots of these worlds because for the most part, these worlds integrate Sora, Donald, and Goofy pretty well into the world itself. The worlds may not necessarily integrate into the overarching plot very well, but that's kind of irrelevant to this ranking. So anyways, after much research and deliberation, here are my rankings. First off, I put 3 big old question marks for the 100 Acre Wood. This world is so mechanically and tonally different than every other world in the game, it kind of seems unfair to actually compare it to all the others. This world is simply a minigame world with no actual combat, which is understandable considering the whole Winnie the Pooh MO is wholesomeness and it's the Disney property that's most directly targeted to preschoolers. I do appreciate its place in the series to provide something different though, as a world devoid of any conflict. In this world, Sora essentially takes up the Christopher Robin role, so it's kind of fascinating that Pooh is one of the Disney characters that, Sora has the tightest connection with. This world is fun as a diversion. In Kingdom Hearts 3, they add a cell shading effect, which is fun. And the attack button becomes hit. So that's cute. Anyway, onto the actual ranking. Number 28 is Atlantica. I'm gonna be honest, I really want to have a hot take and not put this at the bottom. And before Kingdom Hearts 3, it really probably wouldn't have been at the bottom. Much like 100 Acre Wood, this is a pretty stark departure mechanically from all the other worlds. But unlike the 100 Acre Wood, it really falls apart in execution in all of its attempts. Naturally, being an underwater-based world, Sora, Donald, and Goofy take on aquatic forms. And because of that, the game had to come up with a whole new control scheme. And let me tell you, they did not spend as much time developing this as they did the rest of the game, which, obviously they wouldn't. It's so cumbersome, trying to navigate with the different control scheme. And to make matters worse, Atlantica is one of the most open and conversely most confusingly laid out lands in the series. They literally have to put signposts to tell you where you're going. It doesn't help that the whole world is blue and they're blasting Under the Sea in your ears the entire time. Playing this world was so miserable that when they brought it back for Kingdom Hearts 2, they just eliminated combat altogether and turned it into another minigame world. This time, really bad rhythm games. Which at that point, why even bother? It doesn't help that they basically had to retcon this world's plot from the first game to be able to retell the story of the film, which is sad because Atlantica actually did have one of the more interesting plots in the Disney worlds, with Triton being aware of the Keyblade and all that. And finally, Atlantica is responsible for this abomination. Number 27 is the Country of the Musketeers. For those unaware, this world is based on the 2004 film Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, the Three Musketeers. Notably, the first world in this series that's based on a direct-to-video movie. I never really liked the story of the Three Musketeers all that much, so I understand that my biases may be into play with this one, but I can also use this world as an excuse to talk about my big problem with the world in Dream Drop Distance. the 3DS game. Obviously, the 3DS is not going to be as powerful as a home console, and while the devs wanted to focus more on exploration and traversal in this one, the worlds in 3D as a result just feel like empty cavernous boxes that are just lifeless. And I feel that the most in this world. Next. Number 26 is Agrabah. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. Agrabah is one of the most recurring worlds in the series, and obviously Aladdin is hugely popular. To be honest, I've never been a big fan of desert worlds in video games, and obviously Agrabah is the Kingdom Hearts desert level. Making matters worse is that there's barely any variety within the world, no matter what game you're playing. In each game, you play most of this world just in the city streets, and they all look the same and kind of are hard to navigate. And the diversion to the Cave of Wonders in the first game is just kind of a chore to navigate. It also doesn't help that this was one of the most visited worlds in the entire series, so by its last appearance, it just began to feel stale, because unlike other repeat worlds, there wasn't any sort of building on what was there before. It was just a lot of the same, just, a little visually nicer. Number 25 is Le Cité des Cloches. Apologies for any French speakers watching this. This one hurt me, honestly. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is one of Disney's most artistically striking and distinct films. It just has this beautiful, haunting Gothic aesthetic that I was so excited to see someday get put in a Kingdom Hearts game, but then they just had to put it on the 3DS game. The bulk of this world is just traveling through the empty streets of Paris, or the empty catacombs, or the empty Court of Miracles. Notice a trend here? Like I mentioned, I think the Hunchback of Notre Dame is a perfect fit for a Kingdom Hearts game. I just wish it was saved for a console game like Kingdom Hearts 3, because as it stands, the world just falls flat. Basically, all of the Disney worlds in Dream Drop Distance are brand new ones, which in theory is a move I appreciate, because even by Kingdom Hearts 2, a lot of these worlds were feeling stale. But the problem is you get a lot of worlds that have never been seen before, and in some cases were highly requested, but then they're shoved onto the 3DS. And while Dream Drop Distance is a technically impressive game and worlds better than the two Nintendo DS games mechanically, a lot of concessions had to be made to get this game to work. I'm not saying I would have preferred a rehash of the Kingdom Hearts 1 world like half the games in this series. I'm just saying we got a lot of worlds a lot of people wanted, and they all just fell flat. And it's kind of sad. Number 24 is Arendelle. This one also hurt. I love Frozen. I've been a Frozen super fan since the first one came out, and I'll always defend Frozen. Obviously, Kingdom Hearts 3 was gonna have Frozen. It's like the most obvious thing a Kingdom Hearts game could ever do. And I was excited because not only does this story lend itself pretty perfectly to a Kingdom Hearts game, it's also an environment we've not really seen in the series before, with its snow-capped mountains. Unfortunately, just file Arendelle under missed opportunity. This world's a nightmare to navigate. The worlds in KH3 are the most open and dynamic they've ever been, but unfortunately, this was to Arendelle's detriment. Much like Atlantica, a lot of this world is blue, and it's also covered in snow, so it's very easy to find yourself lost for extended periods of time. And then there's that awful ice labyrinth. There's also the fact that Arendelle feels lifeless compared to the other Kingdom Hearts 3 worlds. The other worlds in this game are full of NPCs that add a sense of life that was not seen in the Kingdom Hearts series before. But you don't even go into the actual town in this one, so the only characters you encounter are the main cast, who barely interact with Sora and friends, by the way, because the story of Frozen just happens in the background while the Kingdom Hearts characters just do their own thing. Also, how did they not make Elsa a party member in this? She's quite literally shown killing Heartless, and I get that it wouldn't necessarily work with the plot of Frozen, but maybe don't adapt the plot beat by beat then. The thing that makes Elsa so popular is that she's an angsty character with ice powers, and Kingdom Hearts should have leaned all in on that, instead of just giving us Let It Go while Sora, Donald, and Goofy watch. Heck, if you don't want to separate the sisters, just throw Anna in the party too, and I don't know, she can use an ice pick or something. But instead, we get Marshmallow as a party member, the snow monster Elsa created that is essentially a background character in the movie. Much like Frozen 2, the world of Arendelle has worlds of potential, but it has a somewhat questionable execution. But at least I can enjoy watching Frozen 2. I don't enjoy playing this world. Number 23 is Deep Space. Honestly, I'm surprised it took us this long to get to a Birth by Sleep world. Much like Dream Drop Distance, Birth by Sleep Sleep is a technically impressive game considering they pretty faithfully managed to get a console-esque Kingdom Hearts game on the PlayStation Portable, but also like Dream Drop Distance, some sacrifices needed to be made. And that includes the worlds, which, while not as bad as Dream Drop Distance in my opinion, are also pretty lifeless. Unfortunately, the worst offender for me is Deep Space, which is sad because Lilo and Stitch is one of my favorite Disney movies ever. It's also a different aesthetic for Kingdom Hearts, mainly because Disney doesn't really have many science fiction properties. And it was fun to see an, at the time, pretty modern Disney movie in the prequel game. But as its name implies, Deep Space is not Hawaii, which is the main setting for Lilo and Stitch, of course, but rather the Intergalactic Federation ship from the beginning of the film. And there's not really much variety in these rooms here. It just mainly boils down to differently pastel-colored sci-fi rooms. I like the music in this world a lot, and having Stitch as a party member for boss fights is always fun, but I just don't get much excitement out of this world. But it's also not doing anything actively wrong like the ones below it. Number 22 is The Land of Dragons. To get this out of the way, the music for this world is like in the top 3 world themes. It's so epic and majestic, yet calming at the same time. Unfortunately, there's also not much to this world. While there are a good number of rooms in this world, there's only really a few sections of interest. There's the bamboo grove where you first meet Mulan, the camp from the movie, which is very small and uninteresting, the abandoned village from the movie, and the palace. All of these should have this grand scale, but they just feel small and lifeless, which, you know, is a recurring theme in this. The 1988 film is so beautiful with a very distinctive painterly style and beautiful colors. And unfortunately, I think this is one of the worlds that doesn't really translate super well to 3D. Despite the original film feeling pretty vibrant, the ones in this one feel pretty dull. I do like the opportunity to have Mulan as a party member though, obviously, and having her pink persona be objectively weaker than her authentic self is a nice touch that ties into the theme of the movie. Number 21 is Castle of Dreams. One of the coolest things about Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep is that since there are 3 distinct protagonists, each with a different storyline, each protagonist has access to different parts of the same worlds. The biggest example being Castle of Dreams, the Cinderella world. When playing this world as Ventus, he is shrunk down to the size of a mouse, and the world is scaled appropriately. It's such a unique take on a world, and adds a lot of verticality, which this game is otherwise pretty lacking in. Unfortunately, save for Ven's storyline, and a brief visit from Aqua, the rest of the world is pretty bland. Outside of the house, the fountain where Cinderella first meets the fairy godmother, and the palace, which altogether adds like 5 rooms. The world itself is pretty enough though, with the pastel pink and blue color scheme seen in the movie. In Kingdom Hearts 0.2, you do get to explore more of the town itself, but considering this is after the world has been consumed by darkness, it doesn't really count. And this really doesn't have anything to do with the rankings, but it probably does have my favorite world map icon in the entire series. Number 20 is Disney Town. So for this one, I'm actually combining 2 worlds that are, in terms of the game, distinct and are from 2 different games, hence the asterisk at the beginning. In this case, I'm lumping together Disney Town and Disney Castle, because Disney Town is just the town that surrounds Disney Castle. Anyways, I like this world in theory because it's based on the classic Disney characters. You know, Mickey, Minnie, and so on. It's also a world that's based on the Disney theme parks, with the castle pretty clearly being based on the Disney theme park castles, and Disney Town being pretty similar to Toontown, the best Disney theme park land. However, this can't disguise the fact that there's not much to do in these worlds. Disney Castle in Kingdom Hearts 2 is basically just a diversion and has a pretty excruciating escort mission. Disney Town is a little more in-depth with some explorable areas, but it's also the designated minigame world. And the minigames, while not as terrible as the ones found in Atlantica, aren't great either. There's a weird like volleyball soccer game, a really poorly controlled racing game, and a rhythm game involving ice cream. But I do love the music in this world, and again, it's Toontown, so that makes it alright for me. Number 19 is Dwarf Woodlands. One thing I like about Birth by Sleep is that its first 3 worlds are centered around the first 3 Disney princesses, Snow White, Cinderella, and Aurora, who had their worlds destroyed by Kingdom Hearts 1. So it's cool to explore these worlds before it all went downhill. Dwarf Woodlands is another example of being hampered by the system that its game is on. Despite being the oldest Disney animated film, Snow White still holds up incredibly well to this day. There's not a lot memorable about this world, but the stuff that is pretty good. I do like that you get to explore the Queen's Castle in this, but the Queen's Castle mostly counts to some dark rooms with water and puzzles. They also have you fight against the magic mirror for some reason in 2 different storylines. But you also get to explore the scary woods from the movie with the monster trees, so that's cool. Number 18 is Deep Jungle. So I have a lot of attachments to those first 3 Disney worlds in Kingdom Hearts 1, because the first ever copy of the game I owned was a used copy that just stopped working during the return visit to Traverse Town. Anyways, this world is basically the redheaded stepchild of the franchise. Allegedly, due to rights issues involving the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate, this world has not been featured in any other Kingdom Hearts game since the first one. Even in Chain of Memories, which basically just retells the first game. This world gets a lot of hate from the fandom, which, I understand. This is a very platform-heavy level, and is essentially a labyrinth of vines. And Kingdom Hearts platforming, especially in the first game, is not great. So a lot of your time in this level is just spent trying to navigate these cumbersome platforms. And if you fail, you sometimes have to take part in this really annoying vine surfing segment. But I'm here to tell you, I like Deep Jungle. Not love, obviously. It's only number 18. One thing Kingdom Hearts 1 does a lot better than other games in the series before 3 is a focus on exploration. You're not just funneled down some highly themed hallways. And I think Deep Jungle truly nails that feel. You do feel like you're in the middle of a jungle with only your wits to rely on, for better or worse. And again, this theme music slaps. Number 17 is Wonderland. Speaking of those first 3 Kingdom Hearts 1 worlds, let's talk about Wonderland. I actually used to be a bitter hater towards Wonderland, maybe because it's canonically the first Disney World store visit, so I always play it whenever I start a new playthrough of Kingdom Hearts 1, even if I don't finish the game. But I've really grown to appreciate Wonderland as the years went by. It's a small world, yes, and a lot of the rooms feel really cramped and boxy, but also has such a good focus on exploration. The ability to revisit rooms but from a different angle is really fun and creative, and something that really hasn't been revisited in the series since. I do hate the Trickmaster though. A lot. Number 16 is Enchanted Dominion. Just right off the bat, I want to say this has the best world theme in any Kingdom Hearts game. Do not fight me on this. Sleeping Beauty is one of my favorite Disney movies, and a large part is because of how beautiful it is. I love how angular everything is, and the use of wide shots and the backgrounds are some of the most beautiful in any Disney movie. And considering it's on the PlayStation Portable, Birth by Sleep did a pretty good job at translating it to 3D. This is one of the more expansive worlds in the game, and despite no character visiting the entire world, I do appreciate the variety in it. Plus, it's cool to see Maleficent just in her world as a villain before her ascendance in Kingdom Hearts 1 to overarching villain. Number 15 is Kingdom of Corona. I feel like this one may be considered a bit of a hot take. I don't think a lot of people like this world very much. Much like Wonderland, I've grown to appreciate this world as time has passed. Ironically, it does share a lot of similarities to Arendelle, namely that a lot of this world is just one big expansive space that does make it very hard to navigate sometimes. But due to the fact that Corona is mostly green and more importantly sunny, it's not quite as much of a hassle. And let me say, this world is beautiful. Quite possibly the most aesthetically beautiful world in the game. I love seeing how the characters interact with the world itself, like using Ariel and the dandelions to impress Rapunzel. And especially because this world was visited so early in Kingdom Hearts 3, it was so cool to see this town full of life and residents, and I do think that did a lot to affect its ranking here. I try not to factor the plot of these worlds too much into these rankings, but it is kind of lame to have the story just rehash the film itself without a ton of input from Sora and co, which is kind of a theme for Kingdom Hearts 3. In my opinion, she should have been given the frying pan as a weapon so she could still be in our party after the story ended, but what do I know, right? Number 14 is Beast's Castle. Now, Beauty and the Beast is actually my favorite Disney movie, and despite Beast's Castle being a relatively small world in terms of scale and expansiveness, What it does do, it does wonderfully. Obviously, any Beauty and the Beast world was going to be an important one due to the events of Hollow Bastion in Kingdom Hearts 1. The Gothic architecture is stunning in this world and brings a moody atmosphere that's not really seen in a lot of these Disney worlds. Plus, you fight a boss in the iconic ballroom, which is obviously awesome, though it does also have one of the toughest and most annoying boss battles in the game. It also has an escort mission, but I never found that one to be as annoying as the one in Disney Castle. This world checks all the right boxes for me, but because it is on the smaller side, that's why it's a bit lower on this ranking. Number 13 is Symphony of Sorcery. This one's more so on the list for ambition than anything. Symphony of Sorcery is based on Fantasia, which is one of the most obscure entries in the Disney canon. Fantasia isn't really a film per se with an overarching narrative. It's more of a collection of short films set to and inspired by classic orchestral pieces. The setup of this world is a bit weird as it's ostensibly set in the Mysterious Tower, but it's based on King Mickey's past. It's composed of various dreams based off some of the segments seen in Fantasia. True to the film, there's very little dialogue in this world, and the battle sounds are replaced by musical notes, which I do find charming. I didn't mention this earlier because I didn't really find a need to, but each world in Dream Drop Distance has its own unique gimmick called Reality Shift. I personally found most of them annoying and cumbersome, but I did kind of enjoy the one in this world. The one in Symphony of Sorcery is basically a rhythm game and actually does help affect your progression through the world itself. But at the end of the day, it is still a 3DS world and comes with all those drawbacks. Number 12 is Space Paranoids. Kingdom Hearts 2 is notable, among many things, for being the first game in the series to incorporate worlds from live-action Disney movies. And while a different world we'll talk about a little later integrates it somewhat more questionably, I do think Space Paranoids is a successful execution of the concept, mostly because the characters in Tron are meant to look a little artificial. One of the biggest problems, however, is that the original film's world is a little lifeless. By design, of course, but that just doesn't translate super well to a video game design. I also do think visually it hasn't aged super well in comparison to some of the other Disney worlds. The original Tron is dated, sure, but the fact that it uses a combination of practical and computer-based effects plus hand-drawn animation gives it more of a timeless feel, which Kingdom Hearts, of course, cannot make use of. But overall, I do like the ambition of this one, and shows to how Kingdom Hearts could benefit from having a more diverse slate of worlds in the future. Number 11 is Prankster's Paradise, and also Monstro. This is another one that's technically two distinct worlds. Monstro was in Kingdom Hearts 1, while Prankster's Paradise was a sleeping world in Dream Drop Distance, but Riku's story in Dream Drop Distance takes place in Monstro. Honestly, Monstro is such an inspired choice in Kingdom Hearts 1. In what other game can you have a whole level set inside of a whale other than a Disney Final Fantasy crossover? And then you actually go to the world where Monstro is from in Dream Drop Distance. Though it is only Pleasure Island, but that's fine by me because it's a Kingdom Hearts level in a theme park. And again, I love theme parks. But of course, it's a level from the 3DS game, so it's just big and empty and lifeless. And then Monstro is a nightmare to navigate. Not in the way that Arendelle is a nightmare to navigate, because that's like one big open space, but Monstro has all these different chambers that make navigating it a nightmare, because you always find yourself lost. Or at least I always do. Plus, it is the most platform-heavy level in the game outside of Deep Jungle, and again, Kingdom Hearts platforming is not great. But honestly, I do appreciate the sheer creativity of this world more than anything, even if I try not to think about how squishy and humid it must be in there. Number 10 is Pride Lands. Lion King is one of those movies that was inevitable to show up in a Kingdom Hearts game, and I honestly feel like 2 is the perfect one for it. It takes all the ambition of Atlantica, but actually makes it functional to a degree. Turning Sora into a lion cub is honestly really cute, and unlike Atlantica, I actually do enjoy the Donald and Goofy transformations. They turn Donald into an actual bird. But this impressive transformation does come with some drawbacks. His drive forms are restricted in this world, which I get, but it does severely limit the combat variety in this world, and combat variety is like one of Kingdom Hearts 2's biggest strengths. And Sora's running just feels really loose and slippery. He does have this dash move, but I honestly feel like it doesn't do much except make you pause for an additional second so I can feel inconvenienced. Plus his jump is so much floatier in this world, which is really saying something considering how floaty the jumps normally are. But still, that's all outweighed by the positives, because this is a world that could have been a disaster control-wise, but at the end of the day, it really wasn't. Number 9 is The grid. Honestly, even though this is a very highly ranked world, I don't find myself with much to say about it. The Kingdom Hearts relationship to the Tron series is honestly very weird. From what I can gather, the grid is a real world, or at least a digital world within a world that fell to darkness and is now sleeping. And that world was copied into the Space Paranoids world found in Hollow Bastion, but because that's a copy and not the actual world, that's why the one in Kingdom Hearts 2 is outdated and based on the 80s Tron, while the grid is based on Tron Legacy. The whole situation around the grid is honestly so confusing, so let me link you this Reddit thread that I found explaining it that somehow explains it perfectly but also makes it more confusing. But whatever, I love this world aesthetically. Even though the Tron movies are really style over substance that have incomprehensible plots, I really like these movies. And Disney, again, doesn't really have many sci-fi properties, so that immediately makes it stand out. And yes, it's still one of those lifeless 3DS worlds, but its sleek atmosphere does help elevate it a lot. Number 8 is Monstropolis. Okay, I'm probably gonna sound like a hypocrite here, because on paper this should be another one of those worlds that doesn't have a ton in it. But this is a very good world. Even though the name is Monstropolis, it literally is just the Monsters Inc. factory. But there's so much scale and life to this empty warehouse, it's kind of astounding. And of course, I have to mention the door vault. Generally, I've never been the biggest fan of flow motion in the Kingdom Hearts game, but the Monstropolis version of it was a pretty perfect execution of it, in my opinion. And that makes me glad that we didn't get this world until Kingdom Hearts 3, which of course is due to rights issues, but whatever, it's fine. It's also thematically a cool world because it's the only world in Kingdom Hearts 3 where the Unverse show up, which of course is due to the negative energy associated with scaring, which is what the monsters used to do before turning to comedy. Plus, it gets this incredible scene of Sully yeeting Vanitas into a door. So that's why it's so high up here on this list. Number 7 is Halloween Town. This one's for all my mall gods out there. For being the first game in the series, Kingdom Hearts 1 is honestly full of inspired choices for its world selection. And in my opinion, Halloween Town is the most inspired of them all. Nightmare Before Christmas experienced a boom of popularity in the early 2000s. And you know, it's Disney's only real gateway to the Hot Topic crowd, besides the villains. And Alice in Wonderland, I guess. I love all things Halloween, and I adore the spooky atmosphere this world brings. Plus, it has my personal favorite transformations in the entire series. They literally cut Donald in half. He's 2 separate halves. That being said, this world is a bit of a chore to navigate, especially in Kingdom Hearts 1. I'm pretty sure this game only had like 1 save point in all of Kingdom Hearts 1, and so you had to journey to the entire world to get back to it. And this involved a lot of times puzzle solving, which can be fun sometimes, but not while you're getting assaulted by Heartless. And the final boss in Kingdom Hearts 1 in this world is among my least favorite in the entire series. This boss is very reliant on jumping and platforming, which, let me reiterate, is not good in this game. It does return in Kingdom Hearts 2 with the addition of Christmas Town, which does open up a bit of a rabbit hole. This is, for all intents and purposes, its own world, but it's also part of Halloween Town for gameplay purposes, and the only way to access it really is through Halloween Town. But this is established as the Santa Claus of the Kingdom Hearts universe, which is fun, but this also means we'll never get the Santa Claus. I'm sure someone's sad about that. And as much as I enjoy this world aesthetically, I really did feel that it began to be a bit played out, so I'm glad that they retired it when they did. Number 6 is Toy Box. Toy Box as a world is very funny to me. It's a giant toy store. You know, like that toy store you would see in a kid's show that obviously would never actually exist in real life. You're also in Andy Rooms too, obviously, because this is Toy Story. I actually think Toy Box is one of the best examples of the kind of scope Square Enix was going for with the Disney worlds in Kingdom Hearts 3. This world is really like a Metroidvania in that it's mostly an open space that continually opens up new pathways and areas to discover the further along you progress. It also really plays with scale in a way that the Kingdom Hearts series hasn't done before outside of the Ven section of Castle of Dreams. You're a toy, of course, so to play this world through the eyes of a toy is really cool. Everything is so larger than life in this world. Plus, the enemies you fight in this world are evil toys, including a boss fight with an evil doll, which, you know, sucks for Buzz and Woody, but is fun for me. Everyone was waiting for a Pixar world, and you know, Toy Story specifically, to show up in a Kingdom Hearts game. And as we can see, it definitely was worth the wait. Number 5 is Neverland. Neverland is incredibly weird because it's taken a different form in literally every game it shows up in. In Kingdom Hearts 1, you never even actually go to Neverland. It's literally just Captain Hook's ship, which is flying through undetermined space, and Big Ben, which I guess is in Neverland. Yeah, this is another one where the boundaries of the world itself are weird, especially considering Neverland's keyhole, the heart of the world, is Big Ben. Is London just part of Neverland? Is Alice from Neverland? We did start to see improvements in 358 Days Over 2 when we actually got to go to Neverland itself. But even then, it was mostly just some bluffs on the ocean and not the island itself. But Birth by Sleep is the reason this ranks so high. You finally explore the island itself and it's so colorful. And this level really plays with verticality in a way that the other worlds in this game just didn't. One thing I will give the Kingdom Hearts 1 incarnation, however, is that the flying controls are surprisingly intuitive, which is weird because they're essentially the exact Atlantica controls. But I think because of the fact that it's just another tool in Sora's arsenal and not how you just traverse the world is what makes a difference. I am gonna be honest, I'm surprised a Birth by Sleep world made it so high in this list, but there's something so joyful about Neverland, and that extends to the other incarnations as well, so I just have fun in this world, in all of its games. Number 4 is Olympus, also known as Olympus Coliseum. Talk about a glow up, am I right? In a pre-Kingdom Hearts 3 world, this would have been towards the bottom, if not outright last. In Kingdom Hearts 1, it's literally 2 rooms, the lobby, and outside the Coliseum. Things improve a little bit with the addition of the underworld in Kingdom Hearts 2 and this town square, I guess, in Birth by Sleep. But even then, there's really nothing interesting happening in these worlds. They even destroyed the Olympus Coliseum in 2, which to me reads as symbolic because this world was terrible. The purpose of these worlds weren't really meant to be fully fleshed out worlds to explore that have a strong plot, but to really serve as a home for different tournaments. Which is fine, I guess, but for the purposes of this ranking, which is discussing how well these worlds translate the source material and how fun it is to play in them, it doesn't do a whole lot. Hercules is another one of those visually distinct Disney films, and while I have problems with it structurally and plot-wise, it just oozes charm and style. And even though Olympus Coliseum was the most recurring Disney world, it just felt like it could never be translated into the video game properly. But then we got to Kingdom Hearts 3, and wow, this world is gorgeous. Now simply called Olympus, you actually explore the city, and it's so full of life and people, even if they're under attack. You truly feel like you're exploring ancient Greece, and fighting against all the Titans is something that fans have wanted to do for only the entire series. And for the first time, these Titans actually feel like threatening Titans. And then you go to Mount Olympus itself, and then you hear the iconic Olympus Coliseum theme, and it's so good. Truly the best send-off for this now iconic Kingdom Hearts world. Number 3 is San Francisco. Once Disney bought Marvel in 2009, a lot of people just kind of wondered if and when a Marvel world would show up. And the answer is no one really knows because of a lot of weird rights issues. But even though it is based off a Marvel comic, Big Hero 6 is placed under the Disney umbrella for all intents and purposes. I'm sure there are a lot of people who don't even realize it's based on a Marvel comic. To be fair, the comic and film are very different, but still. Anyways, Big Hero 6 is officially the first Marvel-based world in a Kingdom Hearts game, and honestly, you can feel the change in tone here. For starters, San Francisco is a literal metropolis, something we have never seen in a Kingdom Hearts game. It's not the most expansive video game city by any means, but what it does nail is the feeling of being in a bustling city. And the ability to have it be set at night does bring a different type of mood, considering most of the Kingdom Hearts world are set during the day. Of course, being able to fight with Baymax in your party is absolutely delightful. Of the Disney worlds in Kingdom Hearts 3, San Francisco definitely feels the most involved. Sora and Ko literally become part of the team, and watching them train together is such a joy. Post-release interviews revealed that Square really had a lot more limitations with the Disney worlds this time around than they had before, and you do feel that in worlds like Arendelle and Corona. But in San Francisco, you really feel there was a lot of love on both sides. This world really is a fully fleshed out sequel to the film, and the boss fight against the original Baymax, now corrupted, is such a smart idea. I love this world, and I am someone who hopes we get more superhero-based worlds in the Kingdom Hearts series moving forward. Number 2 is the Caribbean. So in Kingdom Hearts 2, this world was known as Port Royal, and even then, this was one of the best worlds in the series. I know I've brought this up a lot, but but this world is by far the biggest change of pace we've gotten in any of the Disney worlds. Obviously with it being a live action film, but when Curse of the Black Pearl released, it was notable for being the very first PG-13 film under the Disney umbrella, and you definitely feel that more mature tone immediately. Now the Pirate series is my trash, but I think most people agree that Curse of the Black Pearl is a genuinely pretty good film. Despite it having supernatural elements, there is this more grounded tone to it, and somehow Kingdom Hearts 2 manages to nail it dead on. Unfortunately, it hasn't aged the best graphically, especially compared to the worlds based on animated films. While the digital recreations of Keira Knightley, Orlando Bloom, etc. were impressive for the time, they just look dated by today's standards. It also has the uncanny valley effect, especially when they're literally standing next to Goofy and Donald. It doesn't help that the voice actors don't exactly sound like the original actors. But when the world returned in Kingdom Hearts 3, now known as the Caribbean, it managed to improve almost everything that was in Kingdom Hearts 2. This world really is like its own game within a game. It's basically a mini open world pirate adventure. You get your own ship and you can freely traverse the Caribbean to various islands, a lot of which aren't even necessary to explore, and then you return to Port Royal once again, and it's a bustling town, and it's such a new thing for the series. I can't help but be full of joy every time I encounter one. A nice touch that I like is that Sora and co get a makeover for this world, not only getting pirate outfits, but also getting added textures that allow them to blend into the world a little more. Plot-wise, this world is kind of a mess in 3 because it skips right over the second film and goes straight into the third. And much like Arendelle, a lot of the film happens in the background while Sora's gang just does their own thing. They literally have to be recapped on the film's plot by Will during the climax of this world. But I also do find it funny that when they mention Davy Jones' heart, because the Kingdom Hearts characters clearly think they mean, like, you know, the Kingdom Hearts metaphorical heart, but no, it's the actual organ. Oh, and I guess I should mention the crab collecting part. That happened. It kind of sucked. And number 1, the very best Disney world in the Kingdom Hearts series is Timeless River. Oh man, let me tell you about Timeless River. I love this world. For starters, what a cool concept for a level. This world is based on the classic Disney shorts from the 1920s and 1930s. It's essentially Disney Town before it became Disney Town. This world is literally just a series of different areas, each based on a classic Disney short, but the details in this world are truly next level. For starters, I love the look of Sora and his gang. Obviously, Donald and Goofy sport their original designs, but then Sora also gets a retro makeover, complete with pie eyes, and as an added touch, he's wearing his Kingdom Hearts 1 outfit. And then even the sound is compressed, adding to the retro flair. I could gush about this world for so long. I love Disney history so much, and this is such a good love letter to the early days of the company. Other worlds may be more complex, more visually impressive, more expansive, but for me, nothing beats the charm and love put into this world. Kingdom Hearts 3 did have a lot of strong Disney worlds, but as of right now, this is the top of the list. And we'll only have to see if any of the worlds from Kingdom Hearts 4 can beat this one. Well, that's my list. This is an objective ranking, of course, so if you have any other order for these worlds, then you're wrong. I'm just kidding. Tell me your rankings in the comments after you like and subscribe. And then we can all wait until they inevitably put a Black Cauldron world in a Kingdom Hearts game, and we can rank it last because that movie's terrible. My hot take is that every main character from the Disney worlds you visit should be in your party by default. Like, they should be a part of the adventure. Let Cinderella throw hands. When they inevitably do an Encanto world, like, put Mirabelle in there, see what she can do. Maybe not Pocahontas, because I can only imagine the questionable ways in which her character would be translated into a video game party member. But, you know, for the most part, I think that should be a requirement for every single Disney world.